Hi everybody, my name is Chuck Brooks. I'm with Extreme Networks and I am a solution architect for the healthcare vertical. What we're going to talk about today is the safety and security of your IoT devices. As we know, technology in healthcare is evolving on an almost daily basis. The things that you used to see in the hospitals, such as an empty room with really nothing in that room connected up, have turned into something along that. Now you have patient monitors that go over the wireless or the wired network. You have applications that have to be accessed by the nurses from carts, iPads. Some hospitals are even starting to give the patients iPads on check-in. So you have all of these devices now connecting up in the rooms, in the hallways, in the stairwells, and even outside. So where some of the nurses may go to take a break, you have to have pervasive wireless outside also. So all of these things are really bringing in the foundations of what you need for your network. It has to be across the board. It has to reach in bathroom areas, stairwells, elevators, all of this to make sure you maintain that connectivity. So the network is really that key. It's the foundation. In hospitals, really it's probably one of the most complex areas that you can deal with. You have standard business drivers, so people that have to access applications for billing. You have patient record systems, so you have clinicians or doctors or visiting doctors coming in that you have to give access to these things. And then you have the patients themselves who are already starting to gain access to their own medical records, to their own therapy sessions, things so they need extended access into the network versus just somebody that's visiting that patient. How many Chromebooks, tablets, all these different devices that come in that are basically within your network. No longer does a firewall work because they're already on the inside. So you need a connected device strategy. I've seen rooms that look like this, thank goodness not in my hospital, but in some. So what you need is that focus. You have to have buy-in from the biomed, from the people that are doing wayfinding activities. This all has to be coordinated through IT. So many IT departments that we've talked to have all of a sudden said, biomed just told me there's 50 infusion pumps on the loading dock, I got to put them on the network. There has to be coordination for this, because otherwise, how do you do that security? How do you test this out? How do you know that these are secure devices inherently, or how old are those devices? How many times have you seen, I was at another trade show where they were doing a medical cart, and the machine rebooted. It actually had a Windows 98 underlying BIOS in there. So tell me now, tell me that operating system is secure. When's the last time they patched for something like that? So we really want to bring in the intelligent control, and the network is the key. Rather than putting firewalls into your network to segment those networks, we want to do all the access at the edge, because that's where you have the power, and you're also not using the bandwidth going across the network. You're stopping it at the source. No longer are you running through the whole network and saying, oh, dump this packet. I don't need it anymore. So we have a capability within our extreme control that allows you to, number one, find that device. Is it an infusion pump? Well, we can find that. Where was it last plugged in, right? I can see if it's connected wireless, wire, or wired. I can find out the switch port it's going to or the access point. I can find all that by just putting just a key phrase into the search engine. So this allows you to do that. With that, I can also see all the different pieces. So now I can see up here, it might be a little hard to see, but we have the access control. How did that device get on the network? Is it on the guest network? Did it authenticate? Is it a doctor? I can find out all that information. I can also find out the device identity. So what is it? Is it an Android tablet? Is it an iPad? Is it a Dell notebook? Is it a Chromebook? I can also tell you that location. So I can find that on the network, approximately where it is, using the heat maps from either the wireless or the wired as to where that is in your overall infrastructure. Then we also have the access type up on the top right over there. So that shows me which switch it's connected to and/or access point or wireless access point. With that information, I can now secure that. If it's an unsecured device, if it's a new device that shows up on my network, I can actually lock it down. I can create a policy now that says, this is an infusion pump, it should only talk to this server over these ports. So now I can lock that down, even if that infusion pump happens to be maybe something like you've seen here. When's the next cybersecurity warning going to come out from the FDA? Nobody knows. It could be tomorrow. Well, we can lock that down at the edge so that Biomed has to chase those down, maybe to patch that device. However, we can lock it or block it. So I can say, okay, the Hospira infusion pump happened to have an issue with open FTP ports or Telnet ports. I can block that at the edge. So wherever that device is and plugs into the network, I can stop it right there, or I can just block those ports and you can continue using it. So now Biomed doesn't have to find all those ones that are hidden in the closets, maybe down on, wherever they are in the buildings. Maybe they even transferred across and you just got them back from the other hospitals when they were transferred with a patient. So all of these things we can bring together so that it locks down and secures the overall network. The next piece of this is really who's in that driver's seat. You have people putting in RTLS systems. You have Biomed buying new devices all the time. You have the clinical engineering. Everybody is really getting into the game and has all these pet projects. IT is the last one to be notified, quite honestly. They have the least budget that we've seen, at least. That's what they tell us. So we're actually talking with the Biomed groups and the clinical groups because they're the ones with, number one, the funding, and guess who they're going to yell at if the device doesn't work? The IT guys. We try and head that off at the pass, really. But the nice thing about this is I can see what's on my network. Just like I can control what's on my network, I can actually see the applications going across my network. So if I have a rogue device, I can actually see the application that they're using. Maybe a doctor is using Box and he should be using Dropbox. Is that secure? Is it HIPAA compliant? Those are the types of things that you can see going across the network, and you can then dig in deeper and see what's going on with them. How much is being used, right? So you have all the different information at your fingertips about the applications, how much it's actually using. And let me actually go back one slide here. You can actually see that bandwidth over time. So I can go back for 30 days and I can see all of a sudden if somebody plugs something in the network that causes a real spike in activity, all of a sudden this pops up, right? So you have that kind of information at your fingertips for up to 30 days, or you can configure it longer, however you want to do it. So with that, I can go into that application of that user. Now the doctor calls and he says, guess what? I can't access the medical records from my office. You can look and you can see what the applications are that he's actually using. Is he accessing the medical records? Is he maybe watching March Madness during the day? You might have to say that a little delicately to him. However, you can actually know what's going on there. And if you actually had to, you can then increase that quality of service and give them more bandwidth or however he needs to do it. But you can also see, for instance, if there's a network or an application problem. Over there on the right-hand side, I can see all the different applications that are going on my network in real time. I can then see which ones have a good network response time or a bad one. Or is it the application? We actually had a customer that was introducing a cloud EMR system. They put this in, things were working. All of a sudden at night, the nurses started complaining. They were complaining because they were getting some slow access. They didn't know what was going on. The vendor, of course, said, it's a network problem, it's not us. We went in, we actually created a filter to look at that actual application. And between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., it was actually a 4-second response time from their application. The network was fine. So now they have that information. They can go back to the vendor and say, hey, listen, here's what we're seeing from our side. What's going on? Are you doing backups? What's happening out there? Because it's not us at this point. The same thing with those applications, again, the shadow IT. Who's got different things going on there? Are there users that are using non-HIPAA compliant things? We've even had things where vendors have put their vending machine, their soda machine, on the guest network with no encryption, so people are swiping their credit cards. And yeah, guess what? PCI violation. That's really not good for when that hospital has to close down and explain why that's going on. If they're not making the money, they're not happy. So when you discover some of these applications, I can say, okay, guess what? BitTorrent's not allowed in my hospital anymore. I can actually go back through, I create that new policy as I showed you before, and now I can lock it down so that I can block all guest traffic, all user traffic, specifically from using that application or applications. So this becomes a way to lock down all the different pieces over that network. So, in summary, I can see who's on my network, right? Are they guests? Are they doctors? Are they clinicians? I can see what devices are on my network. Are they Chromebooks? Are they Dell PCs, tablets, Androids, Apple, iPad, whatever? I can also see how those devices are connecting and where they connect. Are they on the guest network? Are they using the authentication, right? Are they a doctor in there that we actually have given access to through their typical credentials that we give out? I can see where those devices are, either where they're plugged into or where they're connected to over the wireless network, and find out where they are. How many times have you had a doctor call up and say, I can't find my phone, or I don't know where this device is? Now you can actually say, well, it looks like the last time we saw it was over here. Even if the battery died, at least you have somewhere to start from. You can also see those applications being used and how those applications are performing.